right, welcome everybody. If you have your headphones on, or maybe you can hear my voice, but thank you all for being here. This title of this talk is Build a Multi-Channel Agentic Experience with Twilio and AWS. The first thing to point out is we have people from both Twilio and AWS on the stage. So this is a collaborative effort. We've been working together for the last year, figuring out how to build agentic solutions, how to build cool stuff with both of our platforms. And the talk today is the result of that effort. I'm Dan Bartlett. I'm a principal solutions architect at Twilio.
I'm Brandon Hawkins. I'm a lead PM at Twilio for Voice AI.
And I'm Cameron Keene, a solution architect at AWS.
Awesome. So that's the team. Again, Twilio and AWS working together to make cool stuff. I'm going to read that title again. Build a multi-channel agentic experience with Twilio and AWS. What does that really mean? We see agentic on everything in the expo. I guess saying it in another way, we wanted to show how to build an application using Twilio and AWS that allows your users to interact with the channel of their choice. So the obvious channels that we're going to cover today are, of course, voice, SMS, messaging, and email. So that's what we've built. And also kind of allow them to switch between the two. So we all have kind of applications, hey, it's a voice application or it's an email application, but what about being able to switch between the two channels? And we think this is what people want, and certainly what is possible to build with the tools that are available today. So what does this look like? This is probably one of the more simple architectural diagrams that you'll get this week, but really what we have is we have your customers talking to you or communicating with you over voice, over email, over messaging, to your application, all backed by an LLM. So it does get more complicated than this, I promise, but if you don't remember anything else from the slide, this is what we're putting together. So what are some of the principles, or what are some of the important points of a multi-channel agentic application? What should it look like? The first three are, I have three choices and a principle to kind of out there, and the first choice is channel. We think that your customers, your users want to be able to use voice, messaging. There are different varieties of voice, there are different varieties of messaging. And email. We think email is a great channel. We'll talk about that more, but it's a channel that your customers want to use. Choice with your speech-to-text providers, your text-to-speech providers. We think that's also important because that's going to vary depending on your needs. And same with model, with your LLM model. And lastly, kind of a principle and drive. If you've been doing software development as long as me, don't repeat yourself. You should be able to build this in a way that has reusable components where all these channels and all these models can work together. So what does this look like? So this is kind of the conceptual diagram that we put together as we were kind of building this out. Like, here are the different layers, and this is our opinion on how we think this can be built. That's the intent here is to have this be helpful for you guys to model your own applications. So kind of going from the top down, it all starts with your users, which is where it should always start. The next one's going to be the channels. So for us and for this talk, that's going to be voice, messaging, and email. And then API layer is next. You got to have a way for bi-directional communications. So the channels need to communicate with your app. Your app needs to communicate with the channels. The meat of it is the centerpiece, the agent application and data are what you guys want to concentrate most of your time on. So that's your agent application. This is where your business logic resides. This is how you interact with the data. So certainly identity resolution and context are important factors when building these applications. The agent framework, there's a lot of neat tools out there that I'm sure you guys are aware of to kind of help you build agentic experiences. A service layer we'll talk about, and lastly, the model, the large language model. These are the pieces that we used for this application. So now, of course, we understand there may be something different for what you guys want to use, but this is how we build it. This is our recommendation on a solution. And we're going to go through these all in more details, but certainly you're recognizing the channels from Twilio. all the different compute products and the data products from AWS. I will say this is an instance where our segment product can be plugged in for helping with all the user-focused data. And then agent frameworks, and of course the models down below. So I'm going to pass it over to Brandon. There you go, I'm going to hit the button for you.
Thank you, Dan. So this segues well into what does Twilio do and why are we here? Let's talk about that a little bit more. This image that Dan showed is relatively simple, but it's a lot harder than it looks. And businesses are struggling to build amazing engagement. And it's very hard to do that. And these are 4 reasons why we think it's hard to do that. Consumer expectation has evolved. They want brands to remember them across channels and interactions, but that's very hard to do. And that's because data lives in different silos. And there's fragmented experiences across these channels. These channels are in isolation, like I said, and switching between them breaks the continuity of the experience. And third, there's so many tools, it's difficult to create like a lifelong conversation or that customer connection. You have signals from customers, from channels, from AI, and they aren't unified or activated in real time. And so that limits what we can do and what kind of customer outcomes we can drive. And lastly, builders have to, we always have to make trade-offs between friction and security, and you introduce risk and frustration in the process. So why Twilio? Our mission is, our vision is we envision a world in which every digital interaction is amazing. And we think we sit at an interesting place in the ecosystem to deliver value and deserve to play here. We invented the CPaaS category 17 years ago. We're the #1 leader in the market for communications. We are not a foundational AI company, but Amazon is. And we are a developer platform, so we partner very closely with all of them and can make those technologies available for communications use cases. And then last but not least, if we want to talk about personalization and personalization at scale, we have to talk about contextual data. So Twilio owns Segment, which is a CDP product that Dan mentioned. But even if it's not our CDP product, you need to have this information to have a direct relationship with your customer. Twilio sits right in the middle of that. And so that's why we think we deserve to be here. And look, this is just a slide with a lot of logos that show you we are trusted by a lot of the biggest names and brands in the industry. Hundreds of thousands of customers trust us to do all of their communications with all of their customers. And look, most importantly, it's one thing to send a couple messages here and there. It's another thing to do this at scale with 99.999% uptime across the busiest periods of the year. And so, we just had our Cyber Week last week and Black Friday, and we'll have updated numbers. But from last year, these numbers are pretty massive. If over almost 5,000 global carrier connections, partnerships with all of the big companies and names in the business to deliver these messages, and hundreds of thousands of customers and global reach and territory and scale. So I'm going to hand it back to Dan to dig into each of these channels a little further and talk about how we build with them on AWS.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. Okay, so I mentioned the channels. Today we're going to cover in this application voice, messaging, and email. And we're going to start with voice, kind of the most popular and most exciting channel that people are building agentic experiences on. Hopefully you recognize this as the Twilio logo. Does anybody kind of know where it's from? I know you have your headsets on. Maybe make a symbol of what it's from. I'll have Brandon do it. So it's from, that's the universal sign for a phone. And this is, the Twilio logo was inspired by the kind of the receiver of handsets, of old school landline phones. So really our origins are in voice. And in 2008, kind of when we were founded as a company that enabled voice call over software. So we've been doing this for a long time. We're certainly good at it. The other thing to say about voice, and there's a lot of people doing voice applications. Twilio enables voice over multiple different channels. So you can call them varieties of voice. And it's important that you kind of recognize that and kind of why Twilio can certainly help with all your voice applications. Because there is the existing SIP PBX telephony systems that enterprise and companies have that are certainly important and will remain important. There's the good old PSTN, Public Switch Telephone Network, that's actually the phone numbers. That's an important channel of voice. And then also on websites. So Twilio has been doing WebRTC for many years now, so 2011. So to point to click on a website to actually talk to a bot. And then lastly with mobile SDKs. So all these different variety of voices of the voice channel need to be supported, or certainly should be supported, and you can get them all with Twilio. I'm going to pass it back to Brandon. He's going to talk more about conversation relay and kind of Twilio's offering in voice AI.
Thanks again, Dan. So funny, we're starting with voice when a few years ago people said voice was dead, and it's kind of having a resurgence. It's interesting. 3 years ago, almost exactly, ChatGPT came out. And we had customers, who were more tech forward come to us, and they were stitching together a speech-to-text vendor, a text-to-speech vendor, and putting an LLM in the middle, and throwing it on a call, and it was pretty good. And there was decent demos, but we kept hearing 3 problems over and over again. If you're in this space, these shouldn't be a surprise, and chief among them is latency. There's a subjective and objective component to this, so objectively we think if the response time in a conversation is more than a second, it's weird. You hit the uncanny valley of like, is this a robot? I'm talking to an AI agent. You're slamming 0 to speak to an operator. So that's no good. So latency is huge. There's also subjective pieces, right? So when we talk to a human, like we're doing now, I would say, or give me a second while I look that up for you. That has to be handled as well. The second thing we heard was inflexibility. Lots of point solutions, lots of SaaS startups, lots of VC money going to this space. But Twilio is a developer platform. And it's interesting for us as product people. Our customers want that absolute control and to turn every knob to deliver a great customer experience on their own. And they weren't seeing that in the market. Last but not least is orchestration. This ties back to latency with some of the subjective pieces I was talking about. It's non-trivial, but absolutely mission critical to get this piece right. You have to gracefully handle interruptions. You have to have accurate turn taking and know when someone's done talking and when you should start listening. These are very hard to do, like I said, and you have to get them right. We've been doing this for literally 17 years. Twilio exists in voice to orchestrate real-time media. So of course, I've teed up all these problems, and I'm going to tell you we have a solution that we're very proud about. And this is called Conversation Relay. It's a bring your own AI to Twilio Voice. It's how you build voice agents with Twilio. And this went to general availability in March. It's one of our fastest maturing products in Twilio history, and it's one of our it's the area we see the most overwhelming demand at the moment. What is it? Of course, I have the bullet points on the slide. We'll dig in a little bit more. It's a super low latency way of building Twilio, voice agents on Twilio, where you keep the things that are differentiated for your business, bring the LLM, and we'll take care of all the orchestration, all the unsexy parts that we think are sexy about voice and real-time media. And of course, we have some niceties like interruption handling out of the box, and we have all the best vendors on the platform. So we'll zoom out again, an oversimplified, architectural diagram. I hesitate to call it that in a conference like this. What's going on here? What is it? Oversimplified, right? The left side is Twilio. The right side is you, okay? And so we have a web socket that sits in the middle. So if imagine we're on a live phone call, we're going to transcribe the voice into text, send it over the web socket. You will do something with it, presumably run it through an LLM, do data dips. Send us back the response, and then we will speak it into the call. And all of this will be done in super low latency. The median latency is 0.5 seconds or less. And we're going to do this with all these great things that we have baked into the platform to make your life easier as a developer. Interruption handling, DTMF built in, and like I mentioned, a variety of different choices for vendors on the speech-to-text and text-to-speech. If I could call out like 2 things here that I want to hammer home. One is, give us the things that we do, that's our business, that's non-core to you, which is orchestrating voice. And keep all the things on the right that are differentiated, right? And be able to switch between these new technologies as they come out and have absolute control. Also, you probably care about where this data lives. You have absolute control of that this way. I mentioned the vendors for speech-to-text and text-to-speech that we have on the platform. I want to talk about our strategy there a little bit and why this is interesting at all to talk about. One is, of course, look, the voice that you present to your customers represents your brand. So it's the singular touch point. It matters a lot. Our strategy was basically, look, let's, instead of having everybody on our platform, there's a new TTS vendor every week on Product Hunt, and we love all of them. Let's instead take the advantages that Twilio has with scale and put our pricing and buying power into a few that we think will go the distance. And so what we've done is we've made bets on the hyperscalers like Google and Amazon, of course, but also the best of breed startups in this space that, like I said, we think will go the distance in Deepgram and 11 Labs. And we've been able to make sizable commitments to these vendors, and that gets us insight into roadmap and influence, but it also gets lower pricing, and we can pass that on to our customers. One last thing to say about this is, because we've been concentrated in our bets, if you will, we've been able to co-locate these services where possible so that we control every piece of it, right? We can allocate the GPUs that we think are appropriate. We're not sharing traffic with anyone else. And of course, we deliver the lowest latency possible. And then the last thing to say about that, that goes back to this view is, why can Twilio do this better in lower latency than anyone else? The call is already on our platform. So, right, we've co-located these services with the call media edge. You're not taking additional hops out to other clouds. No one else can do that, right? Because we're the provider of the communication. So we just go one level deeper, like what's the developer experience? How do you build with this thing? What's that look like? For folks who have built with Twilio before, TWIML is our Twilio markup language. If you ever wondered how do you pronounce it, it's not TWIML. We apologize. It was decided 17 years ago. It's TWIML. But this is how you do it. And the way to think about this is your config, right? So this is pre-runtime. What provider do I want to use? What languages are we speaking? What voice do I want to use? We can even automatically detect the language and switch for you. But that's your pre-setup, right? Like, what are we going to do? The magic happens on the right via the service provider interface, or SPI, fancy name of saying, we've defined some events that we will send each other live during the call. And this is really, really powerful. So, we'll tell you there's an interruption, right? So you can manage the context. You can also change the language on the fly. You can temporarily pause the ability to interrupt. Maybe you need to play an audio file that says, this call is being recorded for, whatever, training purposes. There's a lot of really cool developer niceties that are baked into the platform that we can do in real time. Last but not least, I'm not going to play the audio file here, but we have a variety of fine-tuning controls. I mentioned all of our customers really love to turn all the knobs and dials. This is very important when you're speaking to different customers in different languages in different regions, that you don't butcher their name or a product like a medical product. And so we have ability to fine-tune those things with SML and phonemes. An example here that I won't share is if we were in Ireland, which we were in London a few weeks ago giving a talk. We might have a friend named Sheena, and it's spelled S-I-N-E. If you don't use this, it will say Shanae or Sine. But with this control, we can now say it correctly, Sheena. Okay, so that was Conversation Relay. That's how you build voice AI agents on Twilio. We talked a lot about the voice agent building aspect. Now you've got it up and running. It's talking to your customers. It's at scale. Now what? Well, the next thing you should be caring about is observability, right? We need to see inside the black box of automation. And we think of this in two different kind of pillars or buckets. The first one is table stakes metrics, telemetry. What was the latency? Was their jitter, et cetera, et cetera. It sounds trivial, but you have to have those things to debug and deliver a great experience. The second is this more high-level business intelligence, like what was the customer sentiment? Was a competitor mentioned? Did the bot hallucinate? And these are really powerful things that we can do. on Twilio. And I'll walk you through like what are the names of those things at Twilio and the products that we have. Voice Insights is our flagship troubleshooting product, and it's evolving from more of a metrics product to do really cool things like aggregation and showing trends that are happening across varieties of calls or different customers or different regions. You can measure end-to-end latency across text-to-speech, speech-to-text, the network, et cetera. And this is now available with Conversation Relay directly integrated in a pilot. If you're a Twilio customer, talk to your account rep. We'll get you access immediately. And this will go more publicly available in the beginning of the year. I also mentioned, right, this other side, this higher level business intelligence. Let's talk about that for a bit. So Twilio has a product called Conversational Intelligence. If you've been a customer or aware of Twilio for a while, we had sort of our own siloed data problems where we had a messaging insights product, a voice insights product, a voice intelligence product. And back in May, again, this went GA as Conversational Intelligence, where we unified an omni-channel intelligence observability solution. And this is, again, did the customer ask to be transferred? Did the bot hallucinate? Did the agent achieve the desired goal? And super powerful using a mix of pre-built language operators, and you can custom write your own. We have LLM behind the scenes, and you could format the output through an API, get events triggered exactly the way you want. If you like UIs, we have this experience in the console. You can do that too. The one thing to call out here is that this is all after the fact. Like, how does this work? You have to have a transcript. So you have to have a message that's in text. You have to have a voice call that's been transcribed. You have to have the text, right? And then we can run language operators on it. And so, up until now, we've been very limited with regards to how you can use it. It's still powerful. And we're very excited to announce here on stage that it is now in the real-time domain and available in a pilot. And it will be more publicly available at the beginning of next year. So now that we can do these, we can run these operators in real time, right? And that's very, very powerful in terms of automating AI agent experiences, A/B testing against your humans, and we're really excited about this. Okay, before I give it back to Dan, we've gotten a lot of questions, and we kind of want to ad-lib here just a second, if you give me some grace, during the week about, hey, you guys are talking a lot about voice AI agents, you're talking about speech-to-text, text-to-speech. What about speech-to-speech? I've heard this is a thing. What about multimodal models? So let's talk about that for just a second. I am personally as excited about it as many of you might be. The promise, let me back up just a second. The text-to-speech, speech-to-text architecture is called the cascade model because we're cascading through the pipeline. And this new speech-to-speech model eliminates text-to-speech and speech-to-text. So the LLM does it all, right? It's expanded to do both sides of the coin. This is exciting because, right, theoretically, you have the lowest possible latency because you've eliminated parts of the pipe. It eliminates complexity as well. But it preserves sentiment and tone and emotion better because it stays in audio. The LLM can process audio directly. And so that's very exciting. It's very promising. So what I would want to say on this is it's very early days. Twilio always, especially as a product person, we always want to be able to say yes to customers. So if a customer wants to come and build on us and you want to use the latest and greatest, we're going to say yes. So we have a product in this space that's also in pilot, and we're really excited about that. We want to be ready because the second thing, which is the takeaway, is we don't think it's ready yet. Super excited. It's not the recommended way of going to production at scale with voice AI agents yet. And the primary reason for that is that businesses run on text. And so if you need to prevent the bot from hallucinating or speaking something you don't want said into the call, you cannot interrupt that if it's an audio stream. And if you do, it'll say something before you can stop it. Some other reasons are it's very expensive, although I think we know how technology works. That will come down over time. And you have less control because you're locked into a particular ecosystem. So with the cascade model, you could pick a TTS vendor, you could pick an STT vendor, you could pick a communications vendor, you could pick an LLM. So if you go speech to speech, you're all in on the LLM, right? You have the choices they have, and that's what you get. I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth again. We're excited about it. It's just not there yet. And so I want to leave you with, when that day comes, we have a product and we will be ready for it. All right, I won't opine anymore about the future of tech. Let me hand it back over to Dan and Cameron to talk about how do we actually build these production scale systems on AWS and Twilio today.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. So Brandon showed a high-level architecture diagram. This is a little bit deeper. It's been on the screen for a little bit. But essentially, a call comes in from the Twilio platform. This is a post call. It goes to your application where it then goes back and it initiates that conversation relay session. That's the WebSocket speech-to-text, text-to-speech cascade model that Brandon talked about. The text is sent back to your application where you're going to get context and you're going to get your interaction with the prompt and with Bedrock. You're going to stream the text back to Conversation Relay, where we turn that text into speech. So we'll go even further later in the talk with the architecture diagram. Also, we'll mention that this works with certainly any compute. So we've built this using EC2. We built this using containers. So a lot of options here. We're hoping to kind of give you guys some guidance on how you could build your own solution. All right, so let's get to a demo, and Cameron's been here for a little while. Cameron, you ready?
Yep.
All right, there you go.
All right, thanks, Dan. All right, so you've seen a lot. Dan showed us the architecture diagram. Brandon talked about Conversation Relay. So let's actually see what an application looks like using both Conversation Relay and the AWS infrastructure. So here I have a conversational helper bot to give you information about reInvent. So let's take a listen.
Hello, I'm reInvent 2025 Helper Bot. How can I help you today?
Can you tell me about the replay party? I heard a lot about dodgeball.
Okay, let me look into the details of the replay party for you. The replay party is a big end-of-conference celebration on Thursday, December 4th from 7:30 p.m. to midnight at the Las Vegas Festival grounds. Some of the key details? Entertainment. 2 main stages with live bands, a silent disco with AR integration, activities. Dodgeball, button mash, ping pong, enhanced giant maze, interactive AI zone roller skating, amenities, sustainable menu options, craft cocktails, themed lounges, complimentary shuttle service from Invent hotels starting at 7 p.m. The dodgeball activity sounds like it will be a lot of fun. Let me know if you need any other details about the replay party.
Yeah, that sounds great, but I actually need to go learn something first before having fun at the replay party.
Okay, got it. Let's take a look at some of the learning sessions you might be interested in before the replay party. Based on your interest in serverless, here are some recommended.
Can you specifically tell me about Mandalay Bay on Thursday?
Okay, let me check on the Mandalay Bay venue and any sessions happening there on Thursday. Based on the search results, it looks like there are a few sessions happening at the Mandalay Bay venue on Thursday, December 4th, 10:30 a.m. How Samsung optimized 1.2 PB on Amazon DynamoDB with zero downtime. Lightning Talk. 3:30 p.m. Slick Deal's AI-powered deal discovery with Amazon SageMaker. Lightning Talk. 4:30 p.m. Simplified data lake access with AWS Identity Center. Lightning Talk. The Mandalay Bay. Lightning Theater seems to be hosting a number of the shorter 20-minute Lightning Talk sessions on Thursday.
Yeah, I think I want to attend that SageMaker session.
Okay, got it. The SageMaker session you're interested in is SMB 206 Vertical Bar, Lightning Talk, Vertical Bar, Slick Deal's AI-powered deal.
Can you please just text me all this information?
Okay. Let me summarize the key details about the SageMaker session you're interested in and send them to you via text. Done. I've sent that to you. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so what did we just see? We saw dual channel streaming between Conversation Relay that converted speech to text and text to speech between an AI agent running on an EC2 using Bedrock. As you can see, I asked it questions about the replay party. It knew the details about the replay party. I asked about sessions. It gave me a list of sessions. I could dive deeper on specific locations, times, and dates. And then I asked, okay, this is great, but can you send me a text message so I can save this for later? So we're able to induce using voice, text, and email a seamless multi-channel experience, achieving sub-second latency on that. So let's dive a little deeper on agents. So agents in a nutshell. So as you saw, we had a prompt for our agent, so it's a helper agent, where we define goals and instructions on being a helpful assistant to the replay party, to give details about sessions, about the replay party, and just reInvent in general. And then beyond that, we had tools. So as we saw, it sent us a text message. So we have 3 different voice channel tools. We have SMS, we have voice, and we have email. And so when I said, hey, please send me a text message, the agent recognized the user was referencing the SMS tool, and it was able to send a text message in the background without exiting the main voice conversation. And then we have our context, where I started diving deeper on the sessions and the specific locations. And we have a knowledge base tool running asynchronous as well to look up in your knowledge base defined in Bedrock. So let me dive. So this is like a high-level architecture diagram of the agent itself. So as I mentioned, we had 4 tools. We had our 4 communication channel tools, text, call, and email, where users can say, hey, send me a text, or can you call me with this information, or can you send me an email, as you'll see later in our demos. And then we had the knowledge-based search tool. So why do we have these 4 tools as separate tools and not built in within the agent? So in a main voice product like this, achieving sub-second latency is the main challenge. So we wanted to define tools as asynchronous tool calls to not block the main communication channel. And the same thing with the knowledge-based search and the other channels. So this is great, but this seems very complex. And so managing the context, managing tools, if you start going multi-agent, how do you orchestrate it and the collaboration between the two? This is where open source frameworks come into play. So we have strands, we have LangChain, LangGraph, and Crew AI. They help do the heavy lifting of writing all the manual code you would have to do to manage this. Okay, this is great. You're able to build your agents to do all the tasks you need. But where do you go from there? How do you host this at scale? And that's where Agent Core comes into play. So we showed our previous architecture with EC2. So if you still want to run them on your own hosted infrastructure, you can. But with the new launches in Agent Core runtime with dual channel streaming, this enables this entire architecture that you saw earlier to also be deployed on Agent Core, the entire Agent Core family. So we have our framework that we built in LangChain in the previous example, and then we can deploy that to Agent Core runtime. And with the new release of dual channel streaming with WebSockets, it allows us to have that low latency connection. After that, we provide the model choice using the new Nova 2 models, the freshly launched Gemini models, and the latest Claude models. After that, we have memory. This will handle all the session management and context for you. So we had short-term and long-term memory to store sessions for less than 30 days. So the conversation I just had would be in short-term memory. And then once you hit the 30-day window, it gets summarized and stored in long-term memory to persist user context. And then within the AWS environment, observability for your agent. So knowing what the agent's doing, seeing the token usage, latency, that's where observability comes into play. And then if you have existing functionality, if you have Lambda functions, existing code that you wrote, or you have APIs that you already have built, Agent Core Gateway allows us to put an MCP layer on top of those APIs and Lambda functions and allow your agent to use that without having to rewrite your code for agents. And then we have messaging. So let's take a look at a messaging demo as well. So just to recap, we had a voice conversation that sent me this text message about the SageMaker session. This is great, but I'm sitting in the session right now and I can't take a voice call. So I do have another question that I want to ask the helper assistant. So I follow up in this channel on how do I get to the replay party. I heard the replay party is at the fairgrounds. That sounds really far away. My feet hurt from walking all day between my hotel and the expo hall, and I don't want to have to walk there. So I sent a text message, hey, how do I get to the replay party from the Mandalay Bay? I don't want to walk. And then within a few seconds, we get a text message response back saying, there's a complimentary shuttle from reInvent the expo hall to the replay party. And then I said, great, can you send me an email with this information? So it'll send me a summary of the session information, and it'll tell me about how do I get to the replay party from the Mandalay Bay. So I finish up and fire off this text here, and then it lets me know that it sent me a text message, or sorry, excuse me, that it sent me an email in the same thread. So here's the email. I'm opening up the email. As we see, it texted me about the SageMaker session I was asking about and the replay party and how to get there. So that is the messaging to email seamless experience. And now I pass this on to Dan to keep talking about messaging.
Awesome. Really cool. Thanks, Cameron. So we just saw how you can easily switch from voice to SMS and continue the conversation with the context preserved. And I want to just pause here on SMS and messaging in general, because this is something that Twilio also does really well. But messaging is certainly complicated with compliance and global numbers and sender types. It is something that you really need a good partner to make it more simple. What type of sender do you have? What type of throughput do you need? These are things that are hard questions, but Twilio certainly makes it easier. We're throwing up some stuff from Cyber Week last year. We do have our numbers. The blue from last week, we blew those numbers out. We do have massive scale, and we can be the trusted provider in order to handle your messaging volume. We talked about SMS, we talked about MMS, and those are cool. That's what's kind of people are used to using, but I would be remiss to not also talk about RCS. And if you're in this space, you may know what RCS is, but if you're not, it stands for Rich Communication Services. It's been in planning for a number of years now, like 10 years, I think it's been in spec, maybe even longer than that. But it's finally gotten wings. And Twilio is onboarding customers to RCS today, and it is in production use. What is it? What is it different? What's different about it? The first thing is going to be the branding and verification. So in order to get a message from a business, you do get the actual logo and the brand and the verification. So a big deal as far as people knowing that they can trust the sender. The second one is about the rich content that becomes available in RCS. And again, pointing out, RCS is available in your native application, so they don't need another application. This stuff is all delivered through the iOS or Android device, as long as it has kind of the most up-to-date operating system. But this type of interaction, so with content, with video and rich carousels and cards, make a huge difference from the user experience point of view. But not only that, there's also call to actions. So think quick reply buttons, think carousels, think other widgets like wallet and calendar. These things all are now available with RCS, and they're super cool, but think of combining them with agentic capabilities, so allowing your agent to send a quick reply button, allowing them to send a carousel or a calendar reply. There's a lot of neat things that are opening up. And then again, combine that with a voice conversation and switching to SMS and messaging and email. There's the possibilities with this new capability are really exciting, and Twilio can help power them. I also want to point out that everything I just said about RCS and what agents can do as far as sending rich content and interactive content is also possible with WhatsApp. And many people from reInvent are from around the globe where WhatsApp is a primary channel. It is the preferred channel. And Twilio is a top provider of Meta for Meta and WhatsApp globally. So just another channel that's available. Kind of as we were talking about voice as different varieties, where you might have SIP and WebRTC and the PSTN phone number. The same is true of messaging. And you want to be able to offer the messaging channel of choice. RCS, where it's available, fall back to SMS. People prefer WhatsApp, you should have that available too. Last thing too, while we're talking about WhatsApp and going back to voice, we do have WhatsApp business calling available on the Twilio platform too, and that is being rolled out. Another exciting variety or version of voice that you can also make available for your agentic applications. Okay, so we've made it through 2 channels so far. So email is the last one, and email's been around for a while. These are, again, our numbers from 2024. The 2025 numbers are bigger than this. SendGrid, Twilio SendGrid powers tons of business emails every day and certainly globally. Email has been around for a while. My kids tell me that email is kind of the old person's channel, but I actually don't believe that. I think email is something that everybody has. It's ubiquitous. It's something that allows for richer input and richer output. And I think, and a lot of people share this belief, it is primed to be a major channel in agentic applications as well. I think voice is getting attention. You see messaging. I think email is really one that folks should look at, and I think folks will look at. So let's see a demo on email. Oh, okay, throwing a little curveball at you. AI does some weird things. We thought we'd lighten it up a little bit. You may recognize that movie trailer or image from a popular movie about 3 people that were in Vegas and got into a little trouble. So that is the theme of the last part of our demo that I'll pass over to Cameron. There you go, Cameron.
All right, thanks, Dan. So let's see our third email demo here. So I must have just to recap, what do we see? So we had our voice conversation that sent us a text message. We had our text demo sending us an email. And now we're seeing email to email containing the same session history between the two. So let me click into this email from yesterday. So we're jumping into the future here. I must have went way too hard at the replay party last night. I don't remember what happened. I don't even remember what sessions I went to yesterday. And I lost my wallet. So let me follow up in this email thread that I got sent yesterday, asking to help me retrace my steps and help me find my wallet. So I send that over to the email here, and it should contain the session information from all the 3 channels. So we send this off, and then with a few seconds, we get an email response back with the summary of what we did. So we'll open this up here and we'll go through it. So it says, earlier in the day, I attended a SageMaker session. Now that's starting to come back to me. I remember something on SageMaker at the Mandalay Bay. And then it says, I went to the replay party. Okay, so how did I get there? It says, I took the shuttle from Mandalay Bay. Okay, great. And then I enjoyed dodgeball. Maybe that's why my neck's a little sore. Maybe I got hit in the head by a dodgeball, or I had too much to drink. Not really sure. So as you can see, it's retracing my steps through the 3 conversations I had. So when I asked about the replay party and I mentioned I was interested in dodgeball, it brings that up here. When I asked about the Mandalay Bay session, it brings that up here as well. And then it recommends some steps on how I should follow up finding my wallet. So now we'll pass this back off to Dan.
Awesome. Thanks, Cameron. I'm sorry about the rough night you're going to have tonight. Just kind of re-emphasizing what we've seen with these demos. Made a voice call was solved with the agent. All of the context of that call was preserved. Then we moved to SMS, added more context, requested more information, got that back. And then thirdly, we switched to email and asked a question, and the context from the entire conversation across all those channels was preserved. So it's a pretty neat stuff, and this is something that we have built and we are going to make available to you guys. This is the type of thing that you can build today, and certainly using the Twilio platform and tools available with AWS is going to allow you to do that, to make it easier. We saw this image before. The users at the top, the Twilio channels, of course, Conversation Relay is our supercharged version of that's available for the voice channel. The APIs that we saw, the application layer, the data context layer, Cameron talked about. The frameworks that are available certainly make it easier to build out these agents. The Bedrock services, MCP is something that is in one of the slides that Cameron had too. And then lastly, the models. So exciting stuff. This is the high level, and we did promise you another more complicated diagram that we can walk through. And this is, again, what we have built, and we are going to make this available for you folks all to spin up too. And we'll spend a little bit of time, and we're coming towards the end of it, but I'll let Cameron go first and talk about the AWS side of this architecture.
All right. So we have these 3 channels from Twilio, where they're using WebSockets and API requests. These all enter through Route 53 of our network. So the first step is getting your domain set up and setting up your WebSocket connections certificates. We need secure connections to connect to programmable voice with conversation relay. You can't just use a normal WebSocket, it has to be secure. We drive all this traffic in through our internet gateway, so we have all our networking with our load balancing between our 2 availability zones. So key here is co-locating your region closest to your customers to improve the latency. And then doing a minimum of 2 availability zones within your VPC to reliably handle all the traffic. So we have our load balancing in through our NAT gateway into our EC2 instances. So in this demo you saw, we have EC2 instances within auto-scaling groups that are running the server that uses the WebSocket connections to drive the dual channel streaming with conversation relay. And so conversation relay synthesizes the speech to text. The text gets passed into our EC2 instance, running our server that calls Bedrock. So Bedrock, the EC2s are hosting the agents, and then we call Converse Stream for 2-way streaming with Bedrock. Within Bedrock, we're also using knowledge bases, so that's where the S3 bucket comes into play here. So in this design, we have every single session as an individual JSON object that has the date, time, location, and general description of each session stored in an S3 bucket. We use OpenSearch to vectorize that into our knowledge base hosted in Bedrock. And then we have our Converse Stream conversation, as I mentioned. And then we have the knowledge base tool. That's a asynchronous tool call using invoke Bedrock to run in the background, because Converse Stream does not natively support knowledge base integration. So that's why we have a separately defined tool using the normal invoke Bedrock with the knowledge base ID to get more information about our sessions. And then for session persistence, we have DynamoDB to store the sessions between users and the conversation history. And then, as you saw, where we had the WebRTC with the demo, that was just hosted on Amplify with a simple React application using WebSockets to stream the audio to our Amplify application. And now Dan will talk about the Twilio side.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. Yeah, so on the Twilio side, we have the things that we've covered here, but again, kind of similar with leveraging all the platform capabilities of AWS, you can do the same with Twilio and take advantage of our platform capabilities in security, compliance, dashboard. Brandon showed about some of the voice insights, what's available there, but that's available across all of your channels. Benefit of kind of consolidating on a platform. And the enterprise-grade tools and kind of our super network capabilities that Twilio offers, the global reach being kind of the most pertinent one, or one of the most pertinent ones. The channels, we've covered all of these. So programmable voice, we started there. Again, pointing out the different varieties. So you have good old-fashioned telephone numbers, WebRTC, SIP, and WhatsApp. Programmable messaging with SMS. We talked about WhatsApp, we've talked about RCS, and we talked about chat. All of these channels can be accessed through the same programmable messaging API. So you're writing your code in one way and leveraging all these channels. The same is certainly true with voice. And lastly, with email, also with our SendGrid product, straightforward, all within the same Twilio platform. And I'm going to point out too here, the post here from all 3 of these, so the interaction goes through a single endpoint. So just kind of stressing how cool we think this is you have all of the interactions that are coming from Twilio in order for inbound communications, whether that's an inbound call, an inbound message, an inbound email, are going to the same endpoint through the same application. And likewise, that same application is able to post back. Of course, the voice Agentic application is going to use WebSockets. because that's required certainly for latency. But you have a simplified architecture, a more simplified architecture for a pretty complex application if you think about it. There's a ton going on here, but what the combined architecture, platform capabilities of Twilio and AWS really takes a lot of that undifferentiated heavy lifting off of your hands and puts it over to us, allowing you all to focus on the application part of that. So we're excited about this. Again, it is a blog that is coming out, so that hopefully you guys will look for that and spin it up on your own environments. And I'm going to pass it to Brandon.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Cameron. And so to bring us home, presentation 101, you tell them what you're going to tell them, you tell them, and you tell them what you told them. We talked about how, look, it's very hard to deliver communications at scale, to deliver great customer experiences across all these different communications channels, and how Twilio and Amazon can come together to make that easier. And us being together is better together, to make this happen at scale. We started very simple at the beginning, and we got much more production scale in terms of the technicality of the architecture. And like Dan mentioned, we have more coming so that you don't have to, you can take a picture, but we'll post a blog and you can go and build these things yourself. We also talked a lot about what we have today. What can we sell today? What can you go and buy today? And if you want to come and hear about what you can buy tomorrow and what the future might be, you can come and go across the bridge and go to the Venetian, to the Expo Hall, and talk to us at our booth. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Dan and Cameron, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.